I am, bro. Yeah. Appreciate you, Lord.
Yeah, fine. How you doing?
All right. How you doing, man? My things going on.
Things going good. Looking good in your cake. Got my breast cancer. Yeah.
You know it's about Harry's board birthday. He told me in March. Wow.
Oh, wow. Birthday.
We need a birthday cake.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there's anything I can do, just let me know.
All right. Thank you, man. Yeah.
Whatever.
All right.
You know.
Hey, Mark.
How you doing, sir? You know, like I was telling Terry.
Darn thing came on camera, and I don't know why I didn't put it on camera.
Send cards. She likes to read.
Look at that. I had done tried that.
What's your passcode?
She will
Read.
Jesse, well, that's the
What she does is
Jessica Manning.
like we've been getting callers and stuff. Her and Christian
Here,
reading.
Parker.
So that helps them with reading also. So that's it. Right. Just exactly.
Right
All
there.
right.
Uh-huh.
You get it?
I think good.
Hey man, I appreciate you, bro. Thank you. Coming along, she's getting they did surgery. They did another surgery in there to reroute the fluid. So it's a nice cancer. 8 days.
Well, I had it.
Happy birthday.
Thanks. It's the same thing.
You got your stuff?
I had the agenda up there, and I lost it.
Would you like me to help?
I'm sure enough would.
I'll be glad to.
I had it on. I had it right on there.
But that's the people that it's easiest to do.
You still had it right on there.
People
What
that
you
you
did
don't.
to get bring it up?
Just the email app button. It's getting nighttime coffee wraps. That's what I saw. That will be so
That's why I have
nice.
that decaf around the house.
Hey,
And we don't drink.
I turn around and rescue people. Right? Took her around. Took care of her.
Well, where's my gavel?
I mean, it's not much of it, but we have it, right?
I appreciate you. Yeah.
I don't know where my gavel is. So.
It's right behind your
It is.
iPad.
It's tough. Long-term fight for it. It is.
I keep you straight,
But
Mayor.
we'll get through it. She's doing good. She's all right.
Call the meeting to order. Everyone would please stand. Councilman Smith is going to do the invocation.
Let us pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for your blessings, Lord. We just ask you to be with us as we make decisions, Lord, for our town and the people of this town, Lord. We thank you for all that you do and for all of your blessings, Lord, and just ask your continued blessings on us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Would you join me in the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you here tonight. I thought they were calling for rain, but I understand that they are issuing, I guess you call them warnings for this new hurricane that we got. So maybe
We don't want that.
maybe we'll be lucky like
I
we
hope
did the
so.
last time. Okay, item 5 on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Mayor,
I'm
I've
sorry.
got, you all have an amended agenda at your seats, and I just wanted to point out what the changes were. We have, let's see, under consent agenda, number 2, annexation of Aquaventure on Beacon Drive. We want to instruct the town clerk to investigate the sufficiency of the annexation petition. At your seats, you have the petition and associated information with that. It came out after the agenda packet went out to council. On page 2, under old business 2, purchase of the VACCON sewer truck, you have an agreement that's called, let's see, Don's got this all stapled together. It is called a master cooperative purchasing agreement, which is very similar to ones you have approved in the past for the NC Sheriff's Association, which is the co-op that we are asking to purchase the truck from. So you have that at your seats. And also we have an additional item for future agendas / future work sessions regarding the discussion of purchase of pre-tax natural gas. So we want to try to nail down a date for that if we potentially could. With that said, they're all the changes.
Hearing that, excuse me, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Item number 6 is recognition of employees. The first one is Mike Brown, Building Inspections.
Mike, I think is going to roll up here. Ben, do you mind doing the introduction so I can stay up here and take notes?
While before the meeting, I was talking to Mike. I didn't realize who his father was.
Well, I'm sure you know him.
Yeah, very well. Yes.
I've known Mike a long time, but not his dad.
Evening, Mayor, Council. Yes, this evening we bring our newest employee in front for introduction, Mike Brown. He's our new Chief Building Inspector. He has lots of experience in lots of different jurisdictions doing lots of different things, but his most recent stop was with Edgecombe County, and that's where he comes to us from. He resides here in town. I won't say where, so folks won't go seeking him out. But I'd just like to say we're happy to have you. We've been looking forward to having you and look forward to working with you. So I'll let Mike say a few words.
He decided to join us in a little different fashion than just walking in the door, so
Okay.
He did not do that while he was working.
that's true. He decided to get that done prior to.
Yeah, this was a little gift from Edgecombe
That-
County. It's hopefully going to be taken care of in a few weeks. Won't be too long, maybe, and we'll be back running full steam. But I do appreciate the opportunity to work here for the town of Winterville and serve the citizens here. It is my hometown now. I was born and raised in Greenville, lived in Winterville for 17 years, so I'm happy to be home. So, but thank you for having me, and I'll be glad to meet with any of you or answer any questions you have.
We're ecstatic to have you. Welcome.
We welcome you aboard.
Thank you.
Look forward to working with you. The next is Alexander Alvarez, paramedic.
Alves.
Do what?
Alves.
I'm sorry, you're right.
Just want to make sure we pronounced it correctly.
Thank you. This is Alex Alves. He has
born in Greenville. He was raised in Goldsboro, and he's lived in Winterville since 2014. We're just outside of Winterville. I guess he lives in town now, and he has been a volunteer paramedic with us for about a year, and he came on board October 1st. He's also a firefighter, so we're glad to have him. He's a very good paramedic.
Hold on just a second, if you will. In my mailbox here at the town hall last week, maybe it was the week before last, I had a letter addressed to me from Miss Denise Lindsay. And I'd like to read that because I understand that this gentleman was on this particular call. It was, Dear Mayor Jackson and members of the board, on September 19, 2018, I was driving and stopped at the Winterville Fire and Rescue Station. I blew my horn in my car. The gentleman came out and saw that I was in distress. They helped me with no hesitation. The procedures they performed gave me almost immediate relief. They were very polite and treated me with the utmost respect. I would like to thank the aid EMS for transporting me to Vita. Thank all of them for their quick response and kindness, and it's signed Miss Denise Lindsay.
And Alex was on that call along with Tony Clance.
Great job. Good job. Very happy to have you. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, sir.
And I also heard the same thing from Deborah Ebron. She's one of my friends. She lives on Jeremy Lane. She has some respiratory problems, and she was really pleased with the help that she got from our rescue personnel.
That's wonderful.
Okay. Item number 7 is a public hearing on the annexation of Mellon Downs, let's see, 2A and 2B lots 19, 21, 25, 40, 41, 45, 47, 49, 50, 52, 57, and 73, 74, 75, 83, and 85.
Bingo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, as you so eloquently stated, we got an annexation for Mellon Downs. So there's a total of 47 lots over there. Parker and Associates had secured 16 petitions from the property owners before they handed it off to town staff to finish up. So we decided it was a good idea to go ahead and move forward to what we got. So what we're going to do is go through a public hearing for the annexation for the right-of-way of Mockingbird Lane and Oakwood Drive, as well as those 16 lots you just mentioned, Mr. Mayor. So this is located off Laurie Ellis Road. Its current zone is R12 at 12.5. So you can see the annexation process has gone through. The town clerk investigating sufficiency. Public hearing for annexation was scheduled in September, and we're at the public hearing now. The petitioners and adjacent property owners were notified on September 26th by mail, and a notice was published in the Reflector on the 26th of September and the 3rd of this month. So here's our property here. See, so this is going to be the right of way for Oakwood. That's Mockingbird Lane. There's our map, and I've highlighted all 16 properties as well as the right of way. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions, and if there are none, we're ready for the public hearing.
Are any of these lots the ones that were in question?
Yes, sir.
They are?
Yes, sir.
Yes, good.
All of them are.
All of them was what?
This is part of some of the discussion we've had about lots that we thought were annexed but were not. Remember that discussion? This is the first grouping of those lots in question.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? If not, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone that would like to speak in favor of this? Anyone that would like to speak in favor? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, I close the public hearing. What's the board's pleasure?
Move for approval. I second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. When will that date take place?
End of this
That'll
month.
be effective the end of this month.
Okay. All right.
Coming back to you real soon. So just to give you an update on where we're at with the next phase. So there's an additional 31 we've got. So I've got 13 in hand. So we're well on our way of getting all those getting those to you too. So we should have those. We've given them 60 days to give us the petitions back. So hopefully by the end of the year we'll have the process restarted for the remainder of those and mailing downs and have it all wrapped up.
What, there was 31 total?
It was 47 total. We just did 16.
Okay.
So we got 31 additional ones that need to be
And we have
annexed.
13
Okay.
of those 31.
Gotcha.
Okay. Okay. Item number 2 under the public hearing is ACES for autism property.
Yes, sir. So next on the agenda is the rezoning for a request from ACES for Autism to rezone 23 acres, which is located on the south side of Worthington Road. That's east of its intersection with Old Tar Road. More specifically, it's parcel 14643, and the request is from agricultural residential to office and institutional. Here's just some site data. The applicant is ACES for Autism. The owner is Kenneth Harris and Wanda Harris Spahn. The current use is vacant, and the proposed zoning is office and institutional. So just for clarification, office and institutional district is a district in which the principal use of land is for residences, general business offices, and professional offices, and institutional types such as hospitals and medical clinics, and they won't materially distract from nearby residential areas. So the subject property is this tract here. That's just a survey of the property. Again, this property here. It's a current zoning, so you can see the property current is the one out in blue. So the current zoning, you got some general business here, residential here. There's some O&I there, and then residential here. So you got the Winterville, Old Tar Village, which is, and then the four-way stop there. So then the Christ Covenant School is there. So planning staff does find that this request is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan because it provides a smooth land transition in land uses between more and less intensive and land uses. Also, planning staff finds that the request is reasonable and is in the public interest because the proposed zoning district is compatible with surrounding land uses. So staff does recommend approval. So I will note that the Planning and Zoning Board agreed with staff and voted unanimously to approve or to recommend approval of the request. Public hearing notification was published in the Daily Reflector on the 26th of September and October 3rd, and adjacent property owners were mailed notifications, and you've got those addresses in your packet. So with that, I'll answer any questions you have.
Anyone have any questions? How many acres did you say?
23, a little over
23.
23, so 23 is and change.
What kind of response did you get back from the
I have
ones
not heard
that you
anything
notified?
Negative at all. The only communication I've had was with the applicant and their project engineer. So it was all positive from my end.
I've not received any comments one way or the other either.
Now we'll note that the project engineer for the applicant is in the audience as well as the president of the board of ACES for Autism.
Anyone else have any questions?
I attended the planning and zoning meeting, and I was very impressed with their plans for the use of this land, and the fact that this would be something that would be peculiar or special for our area, the east, and the population that it would serve. So,
Okay.
I think
And
it's,
I'm sorry, Mr. Ross.
go right on.
And I will note that even though we do find the use will be compatible use, just note that this is a general rezoning, so we're not looking at just that particular use. We're looking at O&I as a use for the land. So anything in O&I would be permissible there, which we still find to be a reasonable request.
I think it's very important. I'm very glad that we know what is the planned use of that piece of land,
Absolutely.
and that it does comply with the zoning.
I also was at the planning board meeting when they did their presentation, and was very impressed with how they presented their presentation also. And I think, well, I'm just glad they chose us to come to our town to put this facility. And I'd like to make a motion that we,
Gotta have a public hearing first.
public hearing, I'm sorry. I'm putting the cart before the horse. Anyway, y'all know how I stand, so.
You're just excited.
Yeah, I'm just excited, yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, I declare the public hearing open. Anyone that would like to speak in favor?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. I'm Brian Fagundes, here tonight on behalf of Aces for Autism. Don't really have anything to add unless y'all have specific questions. I think Brian did a good job, the other Brian did a good job explaining the request. And I think those of you who were at the planning board meeting heard an awful lot of discussion at that meeting. So with that being said, if y'all have questions, I'm glad to answer them. Otherwise, I appreciate your time.
Any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to speak in favor? Anyone else that would like to speak in favor? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, I close the public hearing. What's the board's pleasure?
I make a motion that we accept the zoning request.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we have one that has signed up to under the public comment period, and as usual, I have to read the public comment period of 30 minutes provides an opportunity for residents to comment on any item included in the agenda or to address the town council on any other matter related to the town of Winterville. For an item included in the public hearing section of the agenda, residents should address the council at the time the mayor invites public comment on the item. No public comment may be made to the council during the meeting except during the public comment period or as part of a public hearing. Individual speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and no more than 3 speakers may address the council on a single matter. The town council may elect to take no action on the matter addressed by a speaker, may schedule the matter for further consideration at a future council meeting, or may refer the matter to town staff for disposition. Copies of the town public comment policy are available in the rear of the assembly room. And I've had only one that signed up that wished to speak, and I think Mr. Irvin Simmons? Simons, I'm sorry. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, board, my name is Irvin Simons, and I'm a resident of Winterville. I live at 115 Liberty Street, Winterville. And I'm speaking on behalf of myself and any other driver or participant who has been citation for a moving violation in a particular intersection in the town of Winterville. And the intersection that I'm referencing is South Mill Street and Cooper Street. For any resident or any driver going south on South Mill Street, and drivers are making a left turn, especially in the morning, making a left turn on Cooper, going maybe to South D.H. Connolly or wherever, the traffic coming from Aden going north on South Mill Street is horrific in the mornings. So traffickers that are going south on South Mill Street will illegally, because the street is not set up properly, will go past the cars turning left and go around on the right-hand side, which is technically illegal because the street is not marked for left turn. And 90%, and I will venture to say, any participants in this courtroom or in this facility have gone past someone at that intersection. And unfortunately, 7:30 in the morning, I'm coming from the gym, traffic is horrific, I go around and I receive a citation. Granted, it is illegal. I called the State Department to try to find out, and that intersection used to be a turning lane. They repaved it, never replaced the turning lane. I've called the State Department to try to see who was involved in that, how I could make a complaint formally. And I think, and I'm here with the town of Winterville to say that we need some assistance there from the town of Winterville, because the town of Winterville Police Department are giving tickets. Because it's a state road, I know you're not responsible for that, but we as patrons need some help, because that is we've heard of speed traps. That is a moving violation trap that needs some attention. So I'm speaking on behalf of me as a Winterville resident, that we need some help there, because I may inadvertently forget and just continually go past like everybody does. So I'm asking the board to maybe speak with the State Department or give some assistance, because that is not fair to us at tickets at $238 a pop. That's not fair. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks for coming. I agree with you 100%. When that Mill Street was repaved, before it was repaved, the center line went to the right. There was only one lane that you could keep south on. Well, when they came back and painted it, they moved it over. I brought this to the board's attention back then. I said something needs to be done, because 3 times, I live on Cooper, 3 times I've seen cars that passed on the right, just like you were doing, and a car was headed north on Mill Street, turned left to go on to Cooper, and could have been a very bad accident. I tell you what I do now. I stay in the right lane, far right lane. Nobody can pass if I'm going to turn left there. But something does need to be done there. And I even mentioned it at a DOT meeting that the line, the painting that was done was not like the original painting, and an accident was going to happen. And but you were exactly right. Passing on the right is illegal. But
that intersection, I measured it physically. The street is the same width as the turning lane north of the red light. The spacing is exactly the same. And I explained to that trooper, that officer, that the turning lane is spacing, and he wrote my ticket up as not enough space to pass. It's exactly the same. And we need some help there as
I agree with you 100%. Maybe we need to contact DOT.
Also, Depot and Mill Street also the same way,
yes.
both
Yes.
intersections. But very seldom does the DOT listen to us. We've requested Old Tar Road reduced 3 times. Nothing. And it used to be 35.
Well,
We'll keep trying.
speed limit, an officer has the discretion of giving you a ticket at 36 miles per hour in a 35 speed zone.
That's exactly right.
And I can petition this officer. You have the discretion, because you know that everybody does it, to give me a warning ticket instead of a $238 fine. I mean, police officers, they have discretion. And I know they have a right to do what's right, but the town of Winterville needs to put some pressure on somebody to fix this moving violation trap, because that's what it is.
Well, I will say this, both streets are DOT streets. They are not the town of Winterville.
I understand, I found that out, but I've gotten nowhere trying to contact DOT to sue, to present a formal complaint. So I'm here to the town of Winterville, where I live for 15 years, to try to help.
I agree with you. Thank you.
I would ask our town manager if she would address a letter to DOT of this matter, of this situation, and see if we can get some help or some answers or some direction to help us out
Can we get
as a
a,
citizen.
can we get a right turn lane at the end of Mill, a main?
I would love to see a red
lane
light,
and
but
a
you know,
4-lane intersection highway line.
Right turn.
I don't
Right
think
turn
there's enough
lane,
room. I don't
right there in
believe-
903. Because we have a lot of people doing that too, swinging to the right, making that right there where Main becomes 903. Oh, it's a right turn.
Off of Main onto 11.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mayor, if I understand Councilman Moy and Councilwoman Robertson's request, and I assume the council's good with that?
Do we need a motion?
No, I just wanted to make sure that's the consensus. Got it.
I will, like I said, before they paved it, the lines was entirely different from the way it is there now. And when they repainted it after it was paved, they did it differently, and that's what's caused the big problem. All right, item number 9 is the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion we approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Or any items that need to be removed?
Leave it like it is.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, under old business, engineering services for the sanitary sewer rehab project.
Evening once again. This item is related to, if you recall, the town was approved for a 20-year loan from the state for a sewer rehab project in the amount of $3,532,000, with $500,000 of that being principal forgiveness. Now we're at the portion where we have to procure the professional services, the engineering, the surveying, the design, the construction admin, all that good fun stuff. So staff pulled together a request for qualifications, advertised, put in the papers, seeking professional service firms, engineers, surveyors to submit. We received one statement of qualifications. It was from Rivers and Associates. This is the same firm that performed the asset inventory and assessment on our sewer system. They're currently working on our water systems, AIA. They also performed the sanitary sewer evaluation study that was used to identify the components of this project. They assisted in preparing the loan application and secure that funding. They are a very qualified firm, have lots of experience with these types of projects. That's why staff is recommending council select them to perform the surveying, engineering, design, plan development, specification development, construction admin, and construction inspection.
Motion approved, Rivers and Associates.
Why do you think we only got one?
that's the reason I was.
Just wondered.
Typically, in this situation, because there is a large effort that goes into pulling these statement of qualification packages, those firms that are in that business understand that the companies that have done that legwork prior to and assisted in securing that funding are very familiar with the project, have lots of experience, and have a good idea that they are a little bit further along than the other folks that would be submitting.
Gotcha.
Did I hear a motion?
We did
Yes,
have
Yes.
I made a motion already.
And my question is,
Is there a second?
No, you got it, yeah.
Second.
okay, go ahead.
Now, Go ahead, John.
Okay. My question is, when we did advertisement, that it was just in the paper, and then did we do it statewide or local, or?
Paper. We also send it out to some firms that we know do this type of work. All of these projects were advertised, if you will, during the state's announcement of funding for these projects. So firms that know about this type of work, know that these projects are out there, know that they have those timelines out there. So they get the paper, they get the notices. Folks just choose not to submit on.
Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. All right, the purchase of the Viacom Titan model sewer truck from the NC Sheriff's Association. How in the world?
that sounds
I didn't know they were in the sewage business.
I was just waiting for you to pronounce the model number. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is very similar to what you have previously done with the fire truck. I believe both fire trucks, as well as the backhoe and the bucket truck that the electric department just purchased. We're just getting council approval. This was budgeted for, approved in the budget this fiscal year. We budgeted $380,000. The truck's about $368,000 on the North Carolina Sheriff Association contract, so it's under budget. Per the purchasing manual, we want to come back, just get council approval to purchase the truck and purchase it through the co-op. We'll do a contract with the co-op similar to the HGAC buy, like the ladder truck. This is the new truck. It'd be an extreme benefit for the town. We've already got our old truck sold to the town of Grifton for more than we budgeted in the budget for the sale price. They're eager to get their hands on our old truck. They need it, and we need a new one.
Motion to approve.
Have a
Second.
motion? Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Item number 11 is request from Bill Clark Homes for roll curb instead of standard curb in the Eli Ridge subdivision.
Stand by for technical difficulties.
I asked Brian to cut the screen off while we were discussing other items, so it's just not distracting. So I realize now that I've done that, it'd take a minute to get it back up. Thank you, Brian.
Okay, this item, the engineer for Bill Clark Homes in the Eli's Ridge subdivision, which we previously approved the preliminary plat on Worthington Road, east of town, has submitted a request to be allowed to install roll-type curb and gutter within the subdivision. The town manager and assistant town manager myself wanted to bring this request to council for approval. So I wanted to go, I got the city of Greenville details up. Our manual is a little bit older. We do not have roll type curb in our design manual. The city of Greenville does. So you've got the pictures in the agenda as well as got them on the screen. So the big difference, top left corner there, you see that's standard curb and gutter. The height from the back of curb to the bottom is 12 inches, and that's going to be one of the major differences between that and roll curb. Roll curb is only 10 inches, so it's 2 inches shorter. The width will be the same, and obviously everyone's familiar with standard type curb and gutter is what we have, probably 99% of the town. Here's a picture on Bayberry Drive, just for an example, showing the standard type curb and gutter. Roll type curb and gutter, as I mentioned, it's basically roll type. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's just 2 inches shorter, and it's more of a roll instead of that vertical face. And here is an example. This is down the road in Aden. This is roll type curb and gutter here for a visual. we have some roll type curb and gutter in town, very small, and it's not really roll type. It's kind of like a hybrid over there. Little Drive, in Raglan area, right in there. It's kind of like a hybrid over there, but it's very similar to roll type curb and gutter. Like I said, the main differences are the standard. You've got that vertical curb face. Other differences, if council were to approve this, staff would recommend that we increase minimum street grade to 0.5%. With standard curb and gutter, 0.3% is acceptable. Also, the maximum ponding depth on standard curb and gutter is 6 inches. Basically, for a 10-year storm, the water can pond to the top of the curb. For roll type, it's 2 inches shorter, so you decrease that by 2 inches, and you would want your maximum ponding depth to be 4 inches. So it would be at the top of the curb. Benefits would be that the developer, home builders, they don't have to cut the curb and gutter, put driveways in. They can put them wherever they fall out. Negatives, obviously, it's not quite as tall. If you had flooding, it could get up in the yard. That's why you have the increased street grade, and you're going to have more inlets to decrease that ponding depth.
I think it looks a lot better, especially people who didn't cut grass on the curb.
Well, yeah.
So, Travis, that means that you had to update your manual or whatever, right?
It would be good for us to insert a detail.
Okay.
You know, for this project, if council were to approve it, I can have the developer's engineer insert a detail on the plans.
Okay.
There's a lot of details. You know, our manual doesn't cover every situation.
All right.
So a lot of times I have to have the engineer draw up a certain detail or add one from another municipality, 2 sets of plans. That's standard.
Okay.
So that would not be an issue. Terry and myself have looked at updating our design manual, and we would love to do that. It's cost prohibitive though at this time, but it would be something that we would love to do in the future.
We have discussed it. No, it needs to be done, but we feel like there have been needs that weren't more important, but that were more time sensitive, where we needed to get those done. And then I'm sure as soon as we feel like that has kind of come to the top, we'll be back before you to ask for that.
Only reason I asked that because, you know, as we all know, the growth in this town. So, I mean, if we can be a little bit more proactive or whatever, you know.
Well, currently, I believe that Travis has the ability to make changes to the design manual as things come along. I believe it's written that way.
Okay.
So what I know he's done is that as we've incorporated and come across these things that we need to add based off of changes in what we're doing, that I know he's doing that.
Okay.
I always try to go in there if I see something wrong or we update something, I'll try to insert it. We have it as a PDF document, so it doesn't look the best when we insert stuff. I usually have to get Amy to do it for me, but
it is rough around the edges the way it looks,
Right.
but I do know that he's adding pertinent information as needed.
And you get pretty good feedback from your contractors and their
yes, sir.
and
Most
engineers
of the
and all the
developers, contractors
developers.
around here, they know what we expect,
Okay.
and they know what we like. Even down to the material suppliers, they know what we want because we buy from them as well. So they, you know, water, sewer materials, everything. They know what we like. So a lot of times the
Good
contractors
enough.
just call them and say, "Send me the Winterville stuff."
So what's the staff recommendation on this?
We don't have one.
Staff is going to recommend that council.
I can tell you what the mayor's recommendation is, not to approve it.
All right, so from an engineering standpoint,
I've called.
What
you know,
is
we
your
haven't done
thoughts?
any roll curb since I've been here, but I did call. I called Greenville. You know, some of the concerns we were worried about was like the street sweeper. I did call Greenville, the city of Greenville. They allow roll type curb. Aiden allows it. The assistant street supervisor in Greenville said they have no issues with the street sweeper using it. They don't have any issues in general with the roll curb. I know Aiden. As an engineer for Rivers and Associates, I designed some subdivisions there with roll curb. It's whatever council preference.
So there's not any real negatives to this?
The negatives that I had in my mind, I talked with staff about. Travis, like he stated, did his research. So his recommendations back to me were that those perceived negatives can be mitigated. So with that said, that's why we don't have a recommendation. We're just giving you the info and.
I think the perceived negative is, like flooding and if it floods, but that's why you've got different design criteria. You've got a increased road slope,
Right.
and you're gonna have more catch basins because you've got a lower ponding depth. And I know I'm getting technical, but to keep less water on the road, you've got to have more inlets for the water to get underground.
So how many more catch basins, can he answer that?
Well, it's going to depend, but manually we will go our homes. But it is, from our opinion, it's a superior design because you have less chances of cutting asphalt, cutting into this, in the standard curve, you have to cut the curving away from the asphalt. You got a chance to damage that edge. You save a little bit of money there for not having to cut that out, but you're going to spend the same or more putting more inlets in. You have to design it, like Travis was saying, you're going to have more slope on the road, which is more appealing when you drive in a neighborhood. You're going to have a little more undulation to the road instead of real flat with the standard curve. So just from aesthetics, driving into a neighborhood, we feel it does look a lot better as far as marketing, traveling, different things like that.
If I may, and Landon's aware of this too, I mean, he heard the concerns about whether that area was previously wet, and has been wet historically, and I think he understands that we're going to expect, a stormwater system that
Right.
operates in the best way it possibly can. So, we continue to reiterate that, and I believe that they're aware.
Absolutely. That's one of our minds. And again, like Travis was speaking about, when you have the curb height at the back lower, that means it's less water in the road with this roll type than it would be with standard, if I'm correct.
Right, because your ponding depth is.
Right.
Ponding depth is lower with this curve, so you have less water in the road than you would with the standard. So that's a positive.
Assuming it has somewhere to go.
Correct.
Right.
And it will, yes ma'am.
Good.
And so you have, as far as people traveling on the road during heavy rainstorms, there'll be less in the roadway by design than the standard curve as well.
Yeah, I attended meetings before I became a member of the board. And I was here at a meeting that board voted against this kind of curbing. So,
It has been turned
and
down.
I can't remember what the problems were that they had with that curbing, but I remember they said that they didn't want that type of curbing used in another subdivision. And it's not because I'm worried about flooding. I am worried about flooding. I made that well known to you about that subdivision. And I just believe that board, had reasons to limit that type of curb and gutter in our community. And
Well, I'm assuming
So that's
that
my-
had to have been many years ago.
well, I thought it was during your term.
Yeah.
You've been up here longer than I have.
Yeah,
I know the
I-
mayor probably remembers.
Yeah, we don't,
And Mr. Moore, you don't remember?
we
the
hadn't
board
talked about the
voting
curb
against
since
using
I've
that?
been on here.
He's talking about, right.
I'm pretty sure.
We,
But that's why I think
Yeah.
that there's very little of the slanted curving in Winterville.
I will say this, and I don't remember, it's not been in my time, I don't think. We
I
researched
think it was right before I came on the board.
We
I think
researched,
about
we
15 years
we
ago.
did see where it's been denied. Again, we didn't have the benefit of an on-staff, a staff person that's got an engineering degree and can give us sort of the specifics that go along with how it's supposed to work, et cetera. So all I'll say is our internal information is much more updated and comprehensive than we've had in the past. I don't know the reasons that prior councils
I'll
didn't
make a
approve it.
motion to approve based on better for water to drain off the road. That's number one. I don't know how ponds.
I second it.
I didn't hear the motion.
I made a motion we approve the use of the,
I wanted to ask, with time for discussion,
If you have a second.
You got a second?
we have a motion and a second.
Yeah.
What's the cost difference in a standard curb and a one like you're talking about?
It's essentially the same. Where you get your cost savings is, it's about the same amount of concrete there. We, on these subdivisions now, what we do is we set up a string line. They don't really get out with the hand forms anymore, and hand form everything. It comes out of a machine, a curbing machine. They'll dump it
same amount of concrete, same process, whether you did this, you just change the molds on the machine. Where you save money is when you don't have to cut the curb when you're building the home. But that cost is offset when you put more drainage structures in to handle more, because you got more slopes on the road. So it's about the same. I mean, it's, there may be a little small difference, but it's not noticeable. It's negligible.
Did I hear you just say that you don't have to have a driveway cut to go with a road?
No, sir. It's the
Just
general
drive
road
over it.
goes right into the driveway. Yes, sir.
Yeah, but my son lives on Raglan Road. He's got that, and it's aggravating as all get out because there is no curb cut there. But we have a motion and a second.
And I just want to say, the only thing that concerns me, you said that it is a potential for flooding, a little bit more than the standard
If designed correctly.
because of the height
If
itself.
designed correctly, it should be less water on the roadway, and that's why I wanted to make it a condition, you know. And I have the authority to put it in the design manual, that the road longitudinal slope will be increased minimum to 0.5%, and also the maximum ponding depth will be decreased from 6 inches to 4 inches, so there'll be less water in the road. And we require catch basin spacing analysis with every new street that we get. I don't know if it was required before I started here, but every new street that I've approved since I've been here, I require the engineer to show me on paper the ponding depth and the catch basin spacing analysis, showing that he's got enough catch basins in there to keep that ponding depth, keep the amount of water on the road to a minimum. One thing I did want to point out, the catch basins will be the exact same. With roll curb, you transition back to standard curb 5 feet outside of the catch basin, you put a standard catch basin hood, frame, and grate in, then you transition back to roll curb.
Mayor, if I may, I didn't catch this when Councilman Moore made his motion, but Councilman Moore, would you be willing to add in staff's recommendations as part of the conditions for approval?
Yes.
Thank you.
One of the other concern I have is, he already second. Right, the only other concern I have is, once we place this in, there's no go back in there and say, whoops, we made a mistake.
There's no going back.
It ain't no going back. So I'm saying what you have already in place and what we already know, it's not broken.
It's not, but like I said, Greenville, other towns in Pitt County are using this roll curb. They haven't had any issues with it. They've been using it for a long time.
But you need to go into country air when they have a heavy rain. You need to go in there and see the flooding that occurs. Even though it may be only for a short period of time, you do have a lot of water standing.
So he's
And
saying,
as far as the cuts for the driveway, as you build the houses, you're going to actually put the driveways in, right? So you won't have to do like we did in some parts of Winterville, go back and cut for a driveway, right?
No, we pour them all, we have to cut every driveway
Mhm.
with a standard curve.
But I mean, that'll be, instead of a cut, it'll be built into the
You'll pour
curb.
it flush to the
Right.
back of the
Right.
curb, so you won't have to tear out. And we, honestly, if anything, staff would prefer the roll curb for this situation. Ben, Terry, and myself talked about this. We have a lot of problems with home builders. They cut that curb, they leave a 2-foot piece of curb head in there next to a joint. It cracks off, and then they call us and want us to go fix it. And that's a major problem that we have.
okay. So I know you already answered this question, and I've been, I just want to hear you say it one more time. Will you recommend this as our engineer for this town? I respect your opinion because that's part of your qualification.
I'm here at the council's pleasure. I do not foresee
Yes.
any issues. If properly designed and properly reviewed, they've got the appropriate catch basins installed. You know, a lot of the town streets that flood, they don't flood because of the type of curb and gutter or the slope. They flood because they were built in a floodplain and they were built, in areas that flood.
We trust that you will make sure that you will be on top
I'll
of
do
this.
everything I can.
I would like to say for the record, staff is not making the recommendation that you all accept that request. We're just giving you the information accordingly.
And we will bid again, just as we did when we had one year flat approved, that we will be going, the extra mile to make sure that our engineer designs, with all the drainage issues in mind.
Yes, but I am asking staff to help us on their qualification, on their knowledge and their experience and what they know.
Absolutely. I
And
just
that's,
want,
and that will help me.
absolutely. And I just wanted to clarify that we weren't
Yes.
making a recommendation. But yes, we're happy to share everything we know.
Now, what was it that you added to the motion?
Councilman Moore agreed to make a motion to approve the roll-type curb with staff recommendations as requirements. And Councilman Hines agreed to second
Did you
that.
just second?
And I second, yes.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise your hand, please. 1, 2. Motion, all opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
But I'm still counting on staff to do it, to make sure that we get it right. Counting on both of you guys to make sure that that subdivision is built and we don't have to face a lot of flooding from our members, but you expected me to vote that way, so.
I was hoping you'd vote yes. I think it's going to be a great.
But
project.
it's
I
fine.
think we're gonna hear from him.
I don't have any problems with it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor, if I may ask, I saw 3 in favor,
It's 4.
4 in favor. Okay, thank you. I couldn't see Mr. Moore. Thank you.
Okay, item number 12, other agenda items. Did you have one for next time?
I have one in the next
Right.
section.
Okay, none. Items for future agendas then, what is it? I have, the
Yes.
first one is workshop date for discussion of the purchase of pre-tax natural gas.
Yes, staff's been working with some folks on the discussion of being able to purchase pre-tax natural gas. And in order to accurately and have enough time to discuss the issue with council, I would ask that we set a workshop date in the near future to discuss that issue. And so I know it's getting the busy time of season for everyone, but could we try to schedule that?
It's for natural gas, not propane gas?
Natural gas.
Natural gas.
Anyone have a date?
And this is for what now?
This is to discuss the purchase of pre-tax natural gas. And it's very complicated, so that's why we want to try to do it in the setting of a workshop, so we have a little more time to get down into the specifics of what it means and what it's about.
How's the 22nd stand?
I'm out on Mondays and Tuesdays for the next 3 weeks.
Is the 25th, that's a Thursday night?
That's when we have it in Low Country Bowl.
I
We
can't do
won't
that
miss
either.
that.
About Monday, November the 5th.
I'm looking at staff.
Is that election day?
That's
No,
election
Tuesday.
day.
Day before, yeah.
I think that November 5th is good.
Okay, 7 o'clock or earlier?
Can we do earlier?
Please.
Because it may take a little bit of time. Is 5:30 okay? Councilman Moy?
Yes.
Okay.
So
5:30.
Yes.
November 5th at 5:30, and we will meet in the Town Hall Executive Conference Room. Thank you.
Okay. And then the next, I wrote treetops in here for something.
The what?
You,
No, this is.
I'm sorry, yeah,
No, I don't have anything else.
yeah.
The citizens on last week wanted to meet with us to discuss the Greenway project.
Yes, ma'am. I can
Are
give
we
you
gonna,
I can give you an update
they
on
wanted
that.
to,
What kind of contest?
Greenway project.
Oh, yeah.
Richie-
Oh, yes, I attended one of those, and I suggested to the person I was talking to that we have a public hearing.
Well, if I could back up and give an update, Ms. Robertson talked to a young lady, Ms. Shreve, who lives in Cedar Ridge, at the meeting, and Ms. Shreve was interested in having a special call meeting with council on the subject of the Fork Swamp Greenway project. And I talked with her at length, I believe it was last Friday, my days run together, and suggested that in my professional opinion, that a special call meeting at this juncture was a little premature because really the project's in its infant stages. if you all will recall, and Ben, jump in if I miss anything, but Ben was before you recently, and we had an RFP process where we tried to procure a consultant to come and do some environmental reconnaissance. That was Ben's term, I like it, and some, basically get some information together so that we can try to do some design work and get some realistic cost estimates in order to be able to apply for some grant funding for this project. So it's not far enough along yet to really be able to adequately discuss where it's going to be located and how it's going to affect properties, etc. So Ms. Shreve and I've assured her that I will stay in touch with her as I believe she dubbed herself the unofficial spokesperson for citizens in Cedar Ridge, which is just as important as official spokespeople. So I have committed to staying in touch with the Cedar Ridge subdivision and any others that have concerns to try to keep them abreast of what's going on.
So they're opposed to it, and we really haven't even put forth a plan yet.
I will just say that
That's what I'm hearing.
The statement to me was that there were concerns. I have encouraged them to potentially put concerns in writing, because sometimes it's easier to see what concerns are in writing and be able to try to work on those, pass those along to council. I've also made folks I've talked to aware of our public comment process at meetings. But in the process, and Ben may speak to this, there will be a public hearing or a public comment process. Maybe not public hearing. I'm not sure that that's
right. So as manager alluded to, we're in the. It is a feasibility study. So we are trying to figure out how feasible the locating and construction and operation and maintenance long term of such a facility is. We've got two things running parallel in this effort. We have we're doing the feasibility study for the Fork Swamp Greenway, the actual trail running behind Cedar Ridge and the other neighborhoods along Old Tar, along Fork Swamp Canal. We are also developing a town-wide Greenway master plan. So that's what the meeting last week was for, was to get public input, public information out to the folks about the town-wide master plan, identifying areas that could benefit from connectivity for pedestrians, whether it be on the street, through the woods, along sidewalks, this sort of thing. So we've got that effort going on. But when you get more project specific, the Fork Swamp Greenway Trail, yes, the surveyor has been out there delineating the wetland areas, the buffers off of the blue line streams. They are also just surveying the corridor through there just to try to figure out the topography. Then once they get all that data, they'll put it on in the computer, they'll look at it, they'll figure out where the hurdles are, they'll identify the environmental areas, calculate those, see what they can or can't impact from a environmental permit standpoint, and then they'll come back to us and show us some drawings. Here's what we think an alignment would be. So there'll be some ping-ponging back and forth. When they get data, they'll talk with us, we'll give a comment, we'll go back. But ultimately, before they get too far down the path, they will hold, and we've already talked to them about this, having a formal presentation to anyone that wants to attend, but more than likely the majority of folks will be those that are in those neighborhoods along that corridor, to have a formal presentation of here's what we're looking at proposing, then have a Q&A session there to try to answer any questions that they may have at that time.
I think one of the biggest questions that was asked to me is how much money have we spent already from the town on this project?
Well, we can start from inception. It all started a year or two ago when we, the town is a member of the Greenville Urban Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, GWAMPO. That is your MPO for transportation-related projects. So we team up with Simpson, Ayton, us, the county, and the city of Greenville to identify projects transportation-wise. The MPO did a active transportation plan is what it was. I knew it was something there. So in that process, lines were drawn on a map, and that's really all that happens. You just say, hey, here's an area, they need to be connected, how can we connect them? Let's draw a line along here. So that's kind of where it started. So from that document, then we submitted an application to Division of Water Resources to seek some grant assistance with this feasibility study and master plan development. So we received a $35,000 grant from Division of Water Resources. We married that up with our $35,000 because it's a dollar for dollar match. And council appropriated some additional funding because based on conversations we were having with some engineering firms, the level of effort was going to be a little bit more than $75,000. So this fiscal year, council appropriated the money. So now we are under contract with Kimley Horn, and they're taking that course with feasibility study and master plan development, as well as a Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grant application that will be submitted in the spring, should council vote in favor of submitting that application, to seek funding to assist with construction. So last meeting I told you all about the projects and the grants that we've been working on and the loans and the efficient use of taxpayer money. Well, we're still making that same effort every time. We're trying to get somebody else to help us out a little bit to pay for these activities and construction.
So just to wrap up, it's not that certainly we want as much public input as possible on these projects, but we also want to spend everyone's time as wisely as possible. So we feel like we need to get more information together and really have a more comprehensive meeting where people can really drill down into what's being proposed, and we're not there yet.
I tried to relay that to a lady that came in. The first words out of her mouth when she walked in, "I'm against this." And she said, "Folks have been in my yard surveying my property. They were trespassing on my property and all that." And I assured her, I says, "Look, right now, there's nothing but lines on paper.
What I would ask, and I know it's difficult, but I would ask that everyone, all citizens, council, everyone keep an open mind, because until we really have specific information to discuss, I think reactions are premature. We are moving forward because this is an identified type of, what am I trying to say? Something that the council has deemed important, making our town walkable, having these kinds of things available to citizens. So we're merely trying to take the direction we've been given. And
well, they rank very high on our surveys.
Yes, absolutely, right. And work with that. So I would just ask that everyone keep that in mind.
I just would like the citizens to know, those who live in this area, to know that we are willing to address it with them.
Yes.
And keep them abreast of what's going on with the project.
And I think at least the folks I've talked to, and I'm sure staff has in the meetings, we're making that very clear. But again, we do encourage folks to come to meetings and listen and make sure that they're keeping up. We're going to make the notifications, but making sure people keep up with what's happening with the project.
I agree, because like Councilman Smith said, even sitting on the Southwest Bypass and attending all the public hearings and all the other things, and always the issue of green space, trails, parks, and a lot of citizens from the Winterville area, that's their interest. And right now, like you said, until you can get a little bit more detail, like you said, keep an open mind, because there is a lot of people that's interested in that. And I also recommend to the citizens is when that opportunity come, take the time to go out and view these maps, give your public input, because that's the only way as we as a board and people that sit on these committees can help you. I mean, if you don't come out and let us know, there's no way for us to know what you want.
I will go one step further. It is difficult for staff to address concerns when we don't really know the specific concerns. So we always encourage people to forward those. In writing's always better, because that way words don't get twisted and ideas don't get misconstrued. But and we'll continue to put this out there, but people are always welcome to submit those concerns in writing to me or to staff members, and that we'll make council aware of those, but we can also work on what those concerns are and get the proper information out there.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Lee.
Well, moving, let's see, reports from the department heads. Well, since you're standing, why don't you go ahead and do your thing?
Moving right along.
Yeah.
All right, just give you a quick rundown on some of the projects that we have going on and hopefully soon to be wrapping up. The regional sewer pump station project, the SCADA, which is fancy term for, computer controls and wires and antennas and all that good fun stuff. That gentleman was in town last week wiring up our communications with the new regional pump station as well as Church Street pump station. So just like we're able to operate our interconnection with GUC out on Worthington Road, open and close valves, turn on pumps, and dictate how much water is coming in the tank and our wells, we'll be able to do similar operations with some of our major pump stations. So we're excited about that. Contractor is finishing up the sewer work on Cooper Street. The sewer's laid, they're cleaning up, finishing up some storm drain work there, just tidying up along there. The services have been tied in. They've got to do some testing of those lines and everything. Force main is tied in. Like I said, they're going to be doing some testing down at the pump station as well as the lines that are in the ground. I will make you aware, Craft Winds was open because that was the storm drain streets project. Now we're getting ready to close it. It's closed again because now we're getting ready to tear it up for some sewer project over there on Bayberry. So the contractor has to bore under Old Tar Road, tie in the sewer that's going to the Craft Winds pump station by gravity and get that over to our new pump station, and then we'll be abandoning the Craft Winds pump station, taking that offline.
What are you gonna do with the property? What will you do with the property?
There's really not much to do with it.
Green space?
It's really not that much property. The majority of the pump station, it's kind of an odd one. It's a lot of it's in the street. The controls and some structures are in a small fenced-in area, not much bigger than, less than from me to King there. So it's a very small, it's not a buildable lot. We'll just say that. Chapman Street culvert, we had a meeting last week with the engineer. He's going to be submitting some plans for our review this Friday. We were just talking about just where they were, construction, easement, acquisition that's going to be necessary for that. We reiterated to them some bank stabilization efforts along that corridor that some members are concerned with in town. We spoke about the SRF sewer rehab project. We'll be notifying Rivers and Associates of their selection and working through a scope and agreement for that so we can meet that. It's a December deadline to get a engineering report and an environmental information document submitted to the state. NTE, that's done. That thing's running.
I should have taken that
Yeah,
off.
we're gonna
My
take that one off for
apologies.
next month. Yeah, it is up and running. Minimum housing, one of the homes was sold. It will actually, this is the one on Academy Street. It will actually, it's been signed over for us to do, for the fire department to do some training. So that'll be up in smoke soon, and then that'll be off the books. You met Mike this evening. He'll be getting brought up to speed and start picking up and running with the new batch of houses. Land use plan, working on scope and contract with that consultant. Multi-use purpose building. Still looking at sites to acquire. That item was brought up by staff to the Recreation Advisory Board for their input and just discussions to bring them up to speed and kind of get them thinking, getting them in that mode. So once a site is selected, acquired, then we can really start moving on that brainstorming. Town Common Master Plan. Survey is complete. They're just fine-tuning some data, getting that to the engineer. We'll be talking with them later this week about what they got data-wise and just making sure we're all on the same page before they take off on some schematics. resurfacing the Hillcrest courts, waiting on the contractor. We expect early November for that to be completed over in Hillcrest. We spoke about Fork Swamp Greenway. We had the recent public meeting, surveys underway. We'll just kind of keep going back and forth with the consultant on that and keeping council and the public informed as necessary. Streets improvement, that's not on the list, but we will be having a walkthrough with the contractor soon to kind of get a final punch list on that project. But for the most part, they've done an outstanding job, considering you saw what the Brian's presentation a couple of meetings ago. They had a big task and a lot of stuff underground that nobody gets to see until you start digging. But they've done very well on that. So.
How about the cemetery?
We have access, we mow it, we've just got to get on designing that. We feel that's probably a cold weather project now that we've been looking at a lot of outdoor projects. We can start looking at securing some survey data, try to figure out exactly how to lay that thing out and get some cost estimates put towards it for pretty much budgeting next year for construction thereof.
Are we much on target for the expansion on Tar Road?
We have been having discussions back and forth. Most recently, the hot item is utility, electric line relocation. We've been discussing with the consultant on doing the engineering, the design of the relocating of our poles, lines, and all the appurtenances. And then just back and forth with DOT on location of them, where it fits in with their plans. So we are targeting to get that underway this year to then have in the budget for next year the actual cost of relocating those lines to the edge of the right-of-way.
So they're still looking at probably 2020?
They were, so what are we might as well say we're in 19, right? They're going to be doing acquisition in 19, right-of-way acquisition, and looking for construction, letting the project, the term, in, what did October 2020? Is that what they were saying? Yeah, October 2020.
When they're going to start?
Is when they're going to start, yes, sir. That's what they're saying today.
That's the plan.
But they have, I believe, if correct me, Robert, I think they said somewhere between 500 and 600 properties that they've got to deal with from the one end of the project to the other with regard to right of way.
It's a big project.
It is. Anything else?
Thank you, Ben.
Yes.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other staff member that wishes to come forward and make a comment, or?
Everybody's
Now,
waiting
Evan,
for Evan.
I know you coming.
I'm good now, I saw.
Well, Evan, I did want to ask you about the playground at Hillcrest. Playground equipment. When is it scheduled?
So, of course, everything's been pushed back because of timelines with first shipping equipment, then, of course, weather, and then the Watermelon Festival, then the hurricane. So, obviously, we are behind schedule, and that's just kind of been understood as we've gone thus far. The Winterville Rec Park, as you might recall, was they started on first. That one should be done, depending on what this hurricane that's coming is going to do, either by the end of this week or almost complete by the end of this week. And then as soon as they do that, they will move on Hillcrest. The equipment for Hillcrest is here. That is at the operations center in the lot behind the building. So everything's here. It's ready to go. Just waiting on the contractor to finish on one to jump back to the other.
Thank you, Evan.
You're welcome.
Staff will be working at some point after completion on some type of
Ribbon cutting.
ribbon cutting, some celebratory soiree so that we can celebrate the two parks and their new additions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Well, since it is staff's time, I will read this letter here. This was addressed to me from the Government Finance Officers Association, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but we are pleased to notify you that your comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ending 2017 qualifies for GFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in the government accounting and financial reporting, and attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. And Anthony, you'll be. I got a copy of these if you'd like to see.
Real quickly on that, I guess the coincidence of that is we started all today. The fun never ends.
I would like to congratulate Anthony and his staff on the hard work in putting together the comprehensive the annual financial report. It's quite a large document, and those folks do it excellently, so thank you. Congratulations.
Okay, moving on. Counselor?
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a report tonight. This relates to the noise at the post office issue. You might recall last month one of the adjacent property owners spoke, and at the end of that the council asked if I would look at your current ordinance and see what we can do with coming up with some type of restrictions. So I did just that. I sat down and of course read through the ordinance and saw in some places how certain noises are prohibited and how they're restricted by time, and then sat down and drafted what I've passed down. I think you have in front of you for your review. And I thought I would take just a moment. You're probably very familiar with it, but your current ordinance, it has a list of exceptions. In other words, what noise is allowed, they're accepted from the noise ordinance. And number 15 says noises resulting from the provision of government services. That's all it says. I can only assume the reason why government noises are exempted is because, and I'll look to us, there's going to be a time, it probably happens a lot more often than I know it does, where the town of Winterville is working on streets, working on utilities at certain hours of the night, or the noise is very loud in the middle of the day, which might violate our noise ordinance. Well, there's a reason for that, and we're exempted out so we can do that because what we're doing is for the betterment of the public and the public good. However, trying to take what's in our ordinance and not coming up with anything that was extraordinary, and looking at where other types of noises are disallowed, what I did was, you see, I started off with the same noises resulting from the division of public services. And then I added on, provided that any unreasonably loud, disturbing sounds shall not be emitted between the hours of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. on any day in any residential area. That language comes from other, there's a specific prohibited noise that deals with gas stations. You know, a lot of times gas stations can be up against close to a residential unit or subdivision. So I took it from there. And then I added, however, any activities identified in 96.3B are exempted from the provision of this chapter and therefore should not violate the subsection. 9603B deals with emergency work. Clearly, we don't want to put something in the ordinance that's where we're going to violate our own ordinance. So I've exempted out emergency work and street construction. That language is in here. I just made it double certain that everybody understands that we can perform emergency work in any hour of the day in street construction. I try to keep it simple. So that's what you have in front of you. You want to? I know.
I usually go last, but if it's okay with council, I'd like to sort of give my update at the same time Keen's giving his, since we've been working collaboratively on this. Council asked that I write a letter to Amazon regarding some of the issues we've been having and the concerns, which I've done that, and you have a copy of the letter in front of you. I'll just say it's a challenge. You just can't go to the internet and just look up a good old address to send something to Amazon. You can find this address that I've sent it to, that's on this letter, but actually I kind of try to drill down with their customer service folks and got in contact with someone and sent this letter via email to Amazon. They have responded. They responded with their, what do you call it, the automated email that you get in return. And then I actually heard from a customer service person, and I got the email right before the meeting tonight. He's very apologetic about the concerns. Obviously, he's not the person that they're going to assign to investigate the issue, but he was doing that initial reaching out to say that it's being investigated, and we would be hearing something back in the near future. So they've at least responded. Keene, and I've talked about the ordinance and potentially, knowing what council asked us to do. We're still working with the postmaster and talking about things they can do from a local perspective to try to mitigate some of the issues. But the big question is going to be whether or not we can have a discussion that would bring about any change when the Amazon trucks actually come with the packages, the massive amount of packages that they're delivering, to see if perchance we can kind of back that up to an earlier time in the evening. That's what I've included in the letter, to try to have that discussion. Hopefully we'll be able to maybe get somewhere with that, but I just wanted to give the update on the other side of what council asked for with respect to reaching out to Amazon. We'll continue.
We're gonna pass this tonight?
I'm gonna allow, or let the
Well,
town attorney.
certainly it's for your consideration, and drafted per, I guess, our discussion last month. I will say, I mean, I have some concerns about enforcement.
As do I, as does chief.
That clearly,
You're gonna deliver the
clearly this would be, your police department would have to go out and make that decision based on our noise ordinance, whether that ordinance is, whether noise is unreasonably loud and disturbing, which is unreasonably loud, that's going to be it's going to be a tough one for the police department. I'm going to be honest with you, and I just also say that, I mean, once if this is passed and it's on your books, so there's a prohibition against a noise that would possibly be possibly noise from the post office would violate. I'm sure there's going to be calls. I'm sure the police department is going to receive phone calls, asking the police department to do something about it. And so I'm not sure we've heard the end of this. I think that, this is the beginning stage of trying to fix a problem that's, I think all of us, nobody would like to live near this. I mean, I wouldn't want to have a house near this, but I'm not sure it's just as easy as passing an ordinance saying you can't do this anymore.
The postmaster has not seen the draft ordinance, obviously. Just making sure that we're being transparent, getting copies of this documentation to the citizens that have been expressing their concerns, and rightfully so, in addition to the post office folks and the folks we've been talking to collaboratively about it. So, Councilman Moore, in terms of passing it tonight, I certainly will leave that up to council, but
make a motion to pass it for the citizens early. At least you got to do something.
We do have an enforcement question, though, and we're going to need to.
But it may work. It may work, may not. But at least it's an effort. It's an effort for our citizens who've asked us to do something about it. Might not work, but we'll see.
May have to be back in front of you asking you to do something different because, again, I'm not suggesting that. And Chief, I don't want to speak for you, but there is some concern.
Is Amazon going to all post offices like this, or just our post office?
No. They have my understanding is they have a national contract with the Postal Service.
But they picked out one of them. Was that correct? Did they pick Greenville had the same problem that we have?
Well, I can't. Greenville has the size buildings to be able to put the packages and stuff inside. I also don't know how.
We don't.
No. Well, everybody orders Amazon packages. Everybody has to have them delivered. That's why all post offices are doing it. The problem with ours is, first of all, it's not big enough. Second of all, it's backed up right to a residential section.
Exactly.
that's a challenge that it presents, that not everywhere is
Can-
experiencing the same thing, but we're not the only one that's having some of these issues.
I mean, what I was going to ask is from the national side of it, what would the postmaster, general postmaster, whatever, the hierarchy, what would they say about this as far as the noise?
What would they say?
We-
Well, they probably would want us not to pass it, so they don't have to worry about dealing with it, I'm sure.
We met with the postmaster, her supervisor, she's not local, and then someone out of Atlanta, I believe. Is that right, Brian? So the supervisor, I mean, so it went beyond just Winterville. And when we talked to them, I think I gave this update, but they were all concerned about the issues at hand. But what I think staff walked away with is that there's a lot of limitations on decisions that can be made at the Winterville Post Office by the Winterville Post Office folks, that modifications to buildings and things that they could do from a larger scale perspective involves a landlord because they don't own the building. It's more comprehensive than they have the decision-making authority at the local level.
The only reason I asked that because, again, by them being a government agency, they're going to look at this and say, well, I'm exempt. Could they, I'm just asking that question.
Sure.
Could they look at this and say, well, I'm a government agency and you can't stop the mail,
No, and we're not, of course, not trying to stop
Right.
the mail. We're trying to curtail noise coming
right.
from a business, albeit a government business. I'm not aware of any exemption from a noise ordinance.
Okay.
Clearly, if we were suing them in civil court, things like that, you're absolutely right. They're defenses and exemptions, if you will, and federal laws that supersede our laws.
Right.
But I'm not aware of any type of exemption or defense they would have to a noise ordinance. I think it would be incumbent upon us to show, that it's just not a slight problem, that it's a,
Right.
a
I agree. I mean, we got to do something. I mean, but I just don't, again, like Terry said, I don't want to keep coming back.
Well, we want to do everything we can to try to resolve the issue for the
Right.
folks that are suffering, as a result of the issue.
I agree with Mr. Moore on, we need to do something because this is October. November's right around the corner, and you're talking about December. And the peak of that business is usually during this holiday season,
It's going to start soon.
very soon. So I think that we need to at least put something in place.
It's an effort.
It would be an effort, and who knows, it might work. But now I understand what the town manager is saying is how far will we have to allow the chief to place
Put extra money in the
personnel's?
Well,
I mean, do you place a personnel there, or it will it be on their regular routine check?
if I may answer for Chief, we don't have the personnel, even though we have 4 new officers. Well, we don't have them all filled yet, all but one. We can't station somebody there. They can check on their routine patrols and maybe even make some extra stops. The challenge is going to be, well, we'll need help from residents when they experience some of the noises and issues to let us know that that's going on. Then if the officers don't hear the noise themselves, then we get into either having people having to come and be witness to the action, the violation that took place. That's why I say enforcement's challenging, because just like with any noise, we don't have noise meters, we don't have things of that nature in our ordinance, so it makes it a little more challenging.
And you know, there's you know, commonalities here, and Chief, if I say something wrong, correct me, but usually the way something like this handles, it's almost like if somebody's got a party at the house. You know, the police department, if there's a complaint come by, say keep it down, it drops down and, you know, there's no citations
Exactly.
issued. The difference here is, I mean, this sounds like it's going to be repetitive night after night after night. And I think we'd all like to find some middle ground where, you know, the post office can do something to mitigate the sound, and so it's just not a reoccurring problem, you know, every night of the week or several nights of the week.
Just shut down at 9 o'clock. That's not unreasonable. I have to sleep beside it. You mean you're not going to respect me as a person, individual who lives beside it? My rights are just as much as their rights. As an American citizen, I have the right to be able to sleep at night and, you know, so I can work the next day to make a living. That's my right. Is just as important as theirs, to make a living. But 9 o'clock is not too much. You've got all the other hours you can move things.
We agree. We're just trying to let you know up front that they don't have any control at the local post office when the trucks come.
I think we all agree that we want it to be quiet over there. But I can tell you, it's not going to start here, and it's not going to start down there. It's going to have to start above with the United States Post Office.
That's what I was.
That's the only way it's going to change.
Right.
I don't have a problem passing this. It's not going to work. It's kind of like dealing with a railroad.
Yeah.
They do what they want to do. And until it comes from upstairs at the post office, which means somebody's going to have to put pressure on them, it's not going to get better. And I'm sorry to say that, but it's not. We all know that.
And I'm sure revenues are driving this too. I'm sure there's got to be a lot of money.
Absolutely.
And I'm just, I mean, I've had no contact with the post office. It's just a bit of common sense, but I'm sure revenues inside the post office are driving this, and whether or not it can be done, you know, from 5 to 9 in the evening, or whether the way they're structured, they can only do it at midnight. I'm not sure.
Well, that's why I'm hoping that Amazon, maybe if somebody could contact us that has the authority to tell us how that stuff is structured and what I don't know where they pick that stuff up from and where it's coming from. I don't have all that knowledge.
And I would, I mean, tonight, this is just again my thoughts. We all knew as we were going into October, November, we're going into the Christmas season, that I guess you have a couple options. You look at passing something tonight. I'm not sure when our meeting is in November. It's got to be sort of towards the early part of
13th.
November. Whether or not you want Terry and I to see if we can contact somebody up and down the post office saying, this is coming, you know, we're going to pass it. You know, well, it's up to the council, but council is probably going to consider passing it. Is there something to not do? One other step at trying to find some middle ground, and then if that doesn't work, we come back in November and you make a decision then.
I agree with that.
It may also require getting some legislative assistance and trying to pull on the shirt of someone high up in
That's
office.
what I would do. I agree with what he just said, and also to talk to our representatives. I mean, and let them know this is our next step, you know, and maybe they can then talk to someone like Mark was saying, higher up, because we're gonna, you know, we're at wit's end now, and we need to do something about it. But you know, we're asking for your help, you know. And to the citizens again, I'm talking to the citizens. Pressure your representatives, because you know, like Mr. Moore and Mr. Moore said, you the one who got to live beside it. Pressure them, let them know. You know, if you get everybody in the whole neighborhood to write them, to let them know that this is not acceptable. You know, and we need some help.
And this is obvious, but we're obviously talking about contacting our United States representative.
Yes, United States representative, right?
Right.
Yeah, not you, Terry.
I just wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page.
The sad part about it is this is way above us. I mean, I want it to be quiet over there. I wouldn't want to live over there either. But, you know, and if we pass this, maybe the threat of it will help to some degree. But I know, didn't we handcuff the police department?
Right.
Just like we did when you get people calling about the guy that didn't have the muffler.
Right.
And he's, you know, yes, loud, I heard it, but you can never catch him because you got to be there when he comes by.
Well, I think in this case,
it won't be a problem.
Well, yes, you're right.
Catching them.
You're right. But then you
enforcement issue
then you
is-
go in to arrest a man. He says, "I'm just doing my job."
Well, we issue them a noise
Citation.
violation.
Yeah.
Citation, excuse me.
Now, and if I could compare it to the Moose Lodge, that's our newest noise because they're butted up right to a residential area, and they rent their building out for all kinds of parties. And on occasion, we have went in and when they didn't adhere to the turning it down, we shut it down. Your rental is over. And we turn it off and they're done. Doing that to the Amazon fleet rolling in it wouldn't be challenging. It would be shocking to someone. It would get some attention, I'm sure, if we didn't allow trucks to turn in there anymore. Because even if we issue the person working for the post office, whoever that poor soul may be, late at night, and then they continue it, our next step is to shut it down. If you ignore, even after you've been cited and you continue to ignore, the next is to turn it off. So that's what you would be kind of tasking us to do.
Then,
Well, maybe that's what we need to do one time.
It would definitely
That'd make
get
the news,
somebody's-
wouldn't it?
It would get somebody's attention, that's for sure.
National news.
Sometimes you have to get people's attention. Maybe that's what it'll take. Maybe we'll send you over there to do that.
Whatever it takes to help the
he
city.
lives in
I
Main
got
Street
some
Village, so
guys
he's
that
right
would love
there.
to do that, just because it's outside of the.
I mean, really, it's,
outside
I
the
mean,
box.
you know, I know I'm not really joking about that. I mean, it may take that to bring it to the forefront.
Well, and sometimes you just have to show people you're serious, and that's again, I defer to y'all's greater wisdom what to do, but Mark said you do have to start at the top. This is beyond us right here, and somebody's going to have to make a decision way up, and perhaps we can say,
I make a motion that we adopt this ordinance.
I second.
I've heard post office, governmental agency, and everything like that tonight on this. And what I'm getting ready to ask is, may not have anything to do with anything, but is Amazon a governmental agency?
No,
No, it's not.
but they're not.
But
They're driving the truck in.
They have a lot of influence.
They have a lot of influence, but, it'd be different trying to write, I call it a citation, to Amazon than it would be to post office.
With the person who's delivering, they can take it to that person. He's making the noise.
The company.
Whoever's making the
That
noise,
person,
but
individual.
He's driving the truck. I'm not sure who's unloading the truck, whether it's post office employees or whether it's
Whoever driving
Amazon.
the truck, make the noise.
Well, he's
Well,
making
the more I sit here and think about it, I think we just need to do what the chief just said. We warn them one time and shut them down. Don't let trucks come in there. That will get somebody's
Well,
attention.
it's definitely gonna
I
do
assure
that.
you.
will.
It may be a big ruckus, but it will get somebody's attention somewhere.
Tell them to move to post office.
Well, as a former employee
residential area.
of the newspaper that delivered newspaper late at night on a box truck all throughout eastern North Carolina, and them carts are very loud and they make a lot of noise. And when you out there at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, you throwing them papers in them 50-pound bundles in that thing, it do make a lot of noise. And I feel for you, but at the same time, I wouldn't want a citation. And you stop me, I'm gonna say it ain't mine. But you got to do what you got to do. So, I just think we just need to not pass the ordinance tonight. Give y'all time to work on it, and then by November, we should be ready to make a motion to get this thing done.
Would it be possible to limit the deliveries? I know we've been tossing around different times. Say, you see businesses, no deliveries after and between these hours.
Mm-hmm.
That might be something that we could work with them about,
Well, I don't think anybody in Winterville has the authority to do that.
Yeah. but, I mean, we can't,
I'm saying with the post office, I don't think anybody at that level has the authority to
but
limit.
this is something we could ask our elected officials.
Yeah.
If they would instruct the post office to do, this would be a mitigation. We got, last week, we talked about, last month or whatever, we talked about wheels, changing the wheels on them, no outside talking, these kinds of things.
The postmaster's agreed to do as much as she can to mitigate loud voices, things of that nature. Any modifications to carts, buildings, etc., as I understand it, is beyond their local ability. That has to be run up the chain, so it's all gonna, that decision-making is gonna reside elsewhere outside of
Well, is the
Winterville.
post office making?
But we could ask for it.
Sheriff's office making?
We already have,
We've asked for it, okay.
but not the representative. I mean, some of those things, we've not talked to U.S. representatives about.
They're bringing in on postal trips.
Mayor, you got a motion on the floor?
Do we have,
You have a motion and a
Have a motion
second
and
to
a
approve the
second.
ordinance.
like, we've had a lot of discussion, any more discussion? Excuse me. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. All right, Counselor?
Mayor, that's all I have tonight.
All
Thank you.
right, Mr. Moore?
On November the 12th, not the 11th, we're going to have our Veterans Day event. Of course, Mayor, you're always invited to speak at that event. The chief will be in charge of refreshments. Thank you, Chief. And hope you all will attend at 2 o'clock on that Monday. It's normally on the exact date, but because it was a different day that Sunday, we decided to move it. We did that a few years ago, about 7 years ago. We moved it to the Monday.
So it's
What
on the
time did you
12th.
say?
It's going to be the 12th at 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. Okay.
My second comment is, if you, Mr. Harvey, there's some updated ordinances for our books. I was looking through some ordinances this past weekend and saw a lot of them that were out of date. For instance, there's in an ordinance that says there's 2 parking spaces in front of a restaurant that's no longer there on Main Street.
What we will work on getting you inserts for your books, but we always encourage you, if you get a chance, if you go to American Legal's website, it's up to date
Okay.
on the website, but we'll definitely work on the supplements to your ordinance books as well. And I'm sorry, you were talking to Mr. Harvey, but I interjected.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Always. That's all I have. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you on the November the 12th.
Mr. Ellison?
I just want to say thanks to all the people that helped me with that dog last week. It was quite an experience for me, and I just appreciate everybody that helped. Assistant Town Manager, Police Department, and
Tell us a story.
just Public Works, everybody with that dog. I also wanted to thank the Public Works for helping me identify a resource to help one of our senior citizens in getting her yard straight after the storm. The lady did not have the money to pay, and they helped me identify some people, and these people were able to help her get that done because the town couldn't do it because, if we did, we'd have to cut down everybody's stuff. And a Recreation Department, thank you for the discussion on the multi-purpose building. And I was really excited when I read the plans for the Christmas celebration.
Good,
The use of
good.
the market square. It was really nice to see something different. And of course, I have on all this pink because of breast cancer awareness in October. But I do urge all of you, male and female, to get all your screenings and keep them up to date. Thank you.
You're exactly right. Since the last meeting, my daughter had lung cancer, and she has been going through, from what little I can gather, some experimental stuff, and she was pronounced cancer-free
Excellent.
about
Amen.
2 weeks ago.
I don't have anything, Mayor.
Only thing I just want to say, I think we have some young adults out here tonight. I see them doing some writing. I don't know whether or not they're doing something for school. Is that correct? Y'all want to stand? Just stand and let me know where you're from. What school? South Central? And y'all here to observe us tonight? I hope that you learn a little something. It's a lot of things that has been said and done tonight. You may not understand a lot of it, but what we are doing is we are trying our very best to do what's best for our community and for our town and for you to be able to run this wonderful community in the future. So continue on doing what you're doing, and I'm so glad to see you out here tonight. Thank you for coming.
Did you say South Central,
South Central, yes, sir.
which is in the city limits of Greenville?
No, I just said, they said they were from South
That's
Central.
all right.
But they could live in Winterville.
Yeah,
What?
They could live in
They have
Winterville.
one of them address.
Well, they could live right in town.
yeah.
Thank
they
you.
Sure can.
Okay. Mr. Hines.
Pretty much, I want to thank the town and Terry and all her staff and some of the council members. You know who you are. For the text messages, we've been going through, me and my family. My wife recently, as of a week ago, we found out that she had brain cancer. Total shock to me and my family. But she's in good spirits. She's doing well. As Ms. Robinson said, every October for me is very special because my sister's also dealt with breast cancer. So every October I wear something pink. Even with my Little League football team, I encourage them to wear something pink. And every football team that I have, they have done that. And again, I just want to thank everybody for their prayers, kind words, and support to me and my family right now as we go through this most difficult time for us. But to God be the glory, people. As my wife say, make an impact. You look at yourself and ask, what have you done to help someone? Make an impact. That's what we do up here on this council. We make impacts, you know, every day for someone. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ricky.
Mayor, members of the council, I just wanted to remind everyone that in November, our meeting will be on Tuesday instead of Monday due to the Veterans Day holiday. So I put that in yellow highlight just to remind everyone that we'll be on a different night in November. Thank you.
Announcements?
Well, Terry took one of mine.
Sorry.
Depending on whether they're somewhat limited tonight because it depends on whether we have business for the Planning and Zoning Board, which would be October the 15th at 7 p.m. here in Town Hall Assembly Room, and then the Board of Adjustment meeting the following night, October 16th, 7 p.m. here in the Assembly Room. And would again remind you of the meeting change. And well, she didn't take this. Town Hall will be closed on Monday before that, on Veterans Day. And there were some things in your package in front of you, one of which the Advocacy Goals Conference. If anyone's interested, please just get up with me and I'll get you registered. That's all, Mayor.
I'm assuming that all minds are clear. We don't have a closed session.
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a motion we adjourn?
So move.
Third.
All in favor, say aye.
Yeah. I keep coming to me.
Terry, here's your pencil, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope it was helpful.
Very.
Yep, I believe we will regret the curb issue.
I don't think so, Mayor, but we may, you never know.
With all those nice,
Your time is not bad.
I started sending my bill. I came that close by sending my
Who?
call. I waited for
Oh, yes, you can have it.